There is a quiet kind of power that never brags, never shouts, and yet it moves the world. It's not loud like motivation quotes on social media, nor does it try to impress the crowd. It lives in those who choose discipline when no one is watching. In a world where distractions rule and emotions rise like storms, this ancient power offers a rare kind of strength, the strength to stay grounded. What if, instead of chasing validation, we practice stillness? What if, instead of reacting to every emotion, we trained ourselves to respond with clarity and courage? How often do we let small things ruin our peace? A rude message, a delayed plan, a bad day, do they deserve the power we give them? Do we stop to ask ourselves, is this within my control, or am I letting it control me? The truth is, we all carry invisible chains. These chains are not made of iron. They are built from impulsive reactions, insecurities, and the fear of judgment. But Stoicism offers a key, not to escape life, but to master it. Picture this. Two people are stuck in the same storm. One panics. The other breathes deeply, narrows his focus, and chooses reason over reaction. The storm doesn't change, but the person does. That's the Stoic way. Not about being emotionless, but about not being owned by emotion. Welcome to Book Boost, where ancient wisdom meets modern transformation. If this message speaks to something silent within you, something tired of the noise, the confusion, the emotional roller coaster, then stay with us. This journey isn't about hype. It's about real strength. If you're ready to become the kind of person who doesn't flinch in the face of chaos, you're in the right place. Like the video, share it with someone who needs this, and don't forget to subscribe. This channel is your quiet companion in a loud world. And please, drop down your one thought on believe in yourself in the comments. Let's build something powerful together. Now let us begin. Let us talk about what it means to truly rebuild the self, not with noise, but with fire beneath silence. The death of impulse, how Stoics dismantle emotional chaos. There is a moment between what happens to us and how we respond. In that small moment, a battle is fought, a quiet, invisible battle that defines who we are becoming. That moment is where a Stoic lives. A person trained in reason doesn't fall apart when chaos arrives. They pause. They breathe. They decide. In that space, they find strength most people never look for. Most people live like a fire without control. One word can set them off. One mistake ruins their whole day. A plan changes, and they lose their peace. But those who follow the Stoic path have learned to tame the fire. They don't let their emotions run their life. They choose reason. They choose calm. They choose the harder path of self-control over the easier one of instant reaction. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is not just a quote to admire. It is a call to live differently. Life will not stop testing us. People will hurt us. Failures will come. Delays, rejections, disappointments, they are all part of the road. But we are not meant to be puppets pulled by our feelings. We are meant to become steady, clear, unshaken. The Stoic habit is simple, yet powerful. Pause before reacting. In that pause, the mind awakens. Instead of feeding anger, it questions it. Instead of drowning in sadness, it observes it. The Stoic doesn't fight emotions with violence, but with wisdom. They do not reject feelings. They understand them, then let them go. Emotions are not enemies, but giving them power over us is. There is nothing strong about being explosive. There is no pride in losing yourself over temporary things. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't need attention. A Stoic walks into the storm without shaking, not because they don't feel fear, but because they refuse to be ruled by it. In the fire of insult, delay, or betrayal, they remain intact. That is the real proof of inner power. Most people react from habit. A trigger happens, and the response follows without thought. The Stoic breaks that cycle. They insert space between cause and reaction. That space is where thought lives. That is where wisdom lives. That is where we take back control. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. These are not words meant to comfort. They are a warning. If we don't master the mind, we will be mastered by it. We must understand this clearly. Impulse is not our friend. It feels powerful in the moment, but it leaves us weak later. Yelling feels good for a second, then brings regret. Acting out of jealousy gives us nothing but emptiness. Letting anger drive our choices leads only to destruction. The Stoic knows this. They practice detachment, not from people or life, but from the chaos of unchecked emotion. The mind that is ruled by emotion becomes a slave, but the mind that sees emotion, pauses, and questions it, that mind becomes free. A Stoic does not avoid pain. They don't escape difficulty. They stand firm, not with force, but with clarity. They understand that pain is part of life. But to suffer unnecessarily, to fall apart over every small thing, that is a choice. And they choose better. The goal is not to feel nothing. That would make us less human. The goal is to feel fully, but wisely. To know when to act and when to wait. To speak with truth, not with poison. To keep dignity even in the face of insult. These are not just ideas. They are daily disciplines. They are choices made again and again until they become who we are. Think of all the energy wasted on reacting to things we cannot control. Think of the peace we lose trying to win arguments, prove points, or chase approval. The Stoic sees this and steps away. Not in weakness, but in mastery. They don't need to win every fight, because they have already won the fight within. When someone offends them, they don't react immediately. They reflect. Why does this bother me? Is it true? Is it worth my peace? Often, the answer is no. And so they move on, not because they are cold, but because they are wise. That's not apathy. That's power. The Stoic doesn't suppress emotions. They study them. They sit with them. They ask what these feelings are trying to teach. Anger may signal injustice, but that doesn't mean it should control our response. Fear may warn of danger, but it should not decide our actions. By facing our feelings with reason, we do not become machines, we become masters of ourselves. In 2025, our lives are louder than ever. News, noise, opinions, conflicts, they come from every direction. The easiest thing to do is react. The hardest thing is to remain still inside. That's what Stoicism trains us to do. It trains us to be calm in the middle of noise, to be kind when others are cruel, to be wise when others are reckless. And this is not just for monks or philosophers. This is for the student, the parent, the worker, the leader, for anyone who wants to live with deeper peace and greater strength. It's not about changing the world first. It's about changing how we move through it. In every situation, the Stoic asks, what is in my control? That simple question kills the root of panic. It clears the mind. It cuts through the fog. We stop wasting time on things we can't change and start focusing on what we can, our attitude, our choices, our inner state. When we master our impulses, we begin to live with intention. We stop saying things we regret. We stop making decisions out of fear. We move with calm because we've trained ourselves to choose it, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. This is the death of impulse, not the death of emotion, but the end of being controlled by it. It is the beginning of real self-respect, of walking through life with a steady mind and a clean conscience. And when others around us are burning in their own rage, confusion, and panic, we will be the ones who remain still. Not because we are better, but because we have practiced. We have paused. We have asked the right questions. We have chosen the higher road again and again, until it no longer feels like a struggle, but like our natural state. That is what the Stoics offer us. Not magic, not perfection, but clarity. A map through the storm. A way to live with power, quiet, humble, enduring power. The kind that lasts. The kind the world needs. The kind that begins with the death of impulse. Beyond the flesh, rebuilding identity with inner governance. There comes a time in every person's life when the mask they wear begins to feel too heavy. The roles, the labels, the expectations, all of it starts to blur who they really are. We are raised in a world that tells us what success looks like, how we should behave, what we should want. And so, we build our identity based on the flesh, what we own, how we look, how others see us. But deep down, there is a quiet part of us that whispers, this is not who I am. A true Stoic begins to listen to that voice. Slowly, patiently, not with panic, but with presence. The goal is not to destroy who we are, but to rebuild, brick by brick, the person beneath the layers of noise. What we are on the surface can be taken from us, our reputation, our job, even our health. But who we are within, that is ours to shape. The Stoics did not see identity as a product of the outer world. They saw it as something forged in the fire of reason, shaped by values, and tested in silence. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, once reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It is in this inner governance where true self-reinvention begins. We don't start by shouting to the world that we are changing. We start by sitting quietly with ourselves, asking, what truly matters to me? What virtues guide me? What do I stand for when no one else is watching? We look at our habits, our reactions, our impulses, not to feel ashamed of them, but to understand them. Because only what we understand can be transformed. Every day, we get pulled in different directions by emotion, desire, fear, and comparison. And every day, we have a choice. Do we let those forces define us? Or do we step back and ask, is this who I want to be? The Stoic learns to pause, not to avoid life, but to master it. They train themselves to observe rather than react, to think rather than follow, to lead themselves before trying to lead others. To rebuild yourself means to realize you are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not the thoughts that pass through your mind, nor the emotions that flood your heart. You are the observer of all these things. And once you see that clearly, you begin to gain power. Real power, not the kind that impresses people, but the kind that calms storms inside you. We have been taught to chase an identity through achievement. But the Stoic knows that identity is not something to chase, it is something to return to. It is already within you. It's found in the choices you make, the principles you stand on, and the way you treat yourself when no one else sees you. That is your character. That is your true face. This inner self is not shaken by loss, nor inflated by praise. It remains stable, grounded, anchored in reason, and led by virtue. This doesn't mean you'll never feel fear or sadness again. You will. But those feelings will not steer your ship anymore. They will pass like waves while your course remains steady. To practice Stoicism is to strip away the layers of false identity. You start to notice how much of your behavior is based on pleasing others, proving something, or avoiding discomfort. Then you choose, moment by moment, to return to your core. You don't need to announce your strength. You live it. Quietly. Consistently. And the beauty of this path is that it doesn't require a new life. It just requires a new lens. You can begin right where you are. At work, in your relationships, alone in your room, every situation becomes a chance to practice being who you truly are. The Stoic habit is not grand, it's constant. 1,000 small choices each day, aligning you with your deeper self. Seneca once said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." A rebuilt identity is not something we wait for. It is something we practice now, in our thoughts, in our words, in how we rise after falling. We do not need to become anyone else. We need to uncover who we already are beneath fear, beyond distraction, past the need for approval. That is where the Stoic stands. Still, sharp, aware. In a world obsessed with appearance, the Stoic chooses essence. While others search for applause, the Stoic seeks alignment. While many are busy reacting, the Stoic watches, learns, and responds from reason. This is what it means to go beyond the flesh. To choose inner governance over outer identity. To build a life not on how things look, but on how things are. And from there, quietly, firmly, day by day, we begin to rebuild ourselves into someone unshakable. The forge of fortitude, daily rituals that build the Stoic self. There is a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need approval, attention, or applause. It is not found in grand gestures or dramatic moments. It is built, slowly and silently, through daily actions, repeated, refined, and chosen again and again. This is the forge where the Stoic self is formed, not in comfort, but in consistency, not in noise, but in inner clarity. To be truly strong, one must learn to live with discomfort. This doesn't mean chasing pain, but choosing growth over ease. Each day gives us 100 chances to respond like the person we're becoming, or to fall back into the person we used to be. The Stoic doesn't wait for the right time to change, he creates it. And that creation begins in small, repeatable acts. It begins at dawn. A Stoic wakes not just to enter the world, but to prepare for it. The first breath, the first thought, it is not casual. It is deliberate. Today, I may meet arrogance, betrayal, and ignorance, wrote Marcus Aurelius. He didn't say this to complain, but to remind himself, the world will be what it is, but I will be who I choose to be. This morning reflection is not an empty ritual. It is a reminder of the only true power we have, control over our responses. Before the world speaks, the Stoic speaks inwardly. He reminds himself of what matters. He reminds himself that emotions are not commands, only signals, and that his worth is not measured by events, but by how he faces them. Throughout the day, this mindset is tested. Someone may insult us. Something may go wrong. A plan may break. And yet, the Stoic does not collapse under surprise. He has already rehearsed these things in his mind. He does not ask the world to be perfect. He only asks himself to remain principled. When fear comes, and it will, the Stoic does not deny it. But he steps back from it. He looks at it carefully. He asks, is this fear useful? Does it protect me, or does it shrink me? And if it is not useful, he lets it pass like a cloud. The same goes for anger. The Stoic does not waste his soul on what he cannot control. He learns to walk away, not out of weakness, but because peace is more powerful than proving a point. The Stoic's rituals are not loud. He may carry a worn-out book in his pocket, a few lines from Seneca or Epictetus, not to show off, but to remember what matters. He may pause before reacting, not because he's unsure, but because he is wise. That pause, that breath, is the ritual. That moment of choosing reason over rage, clarity over chaos, is where the Stoic grows. At night, the Stoic does not scroll mindlessly or flee from reflection. He reviews his day, not with harsh judgment, but with honest eyes. Where did I lose my temper? When did I act on impulse? Did I act with virtue? This reflection isn't shame, it's self-respect. The Stoic knows that without accountability, the soul drifts. This is not a lifestyle for everyone. It is not glamorous. No one claps for your self-control. No one cheers when you remain calm. But the reward is not outside. It is inner freedom. It is sleeping with a quiet mind and waking with a clear purpose. It is walking through noise with an undisturbed soul. A Stoic ritual could be as simple as not replying to provocation, as deep as choosing silence over gossip, as firm as saying no to what weakens your character. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Virtue, once forced, becomes fluent. The Stoic does not need perfect circumstances to live well. He builds structure within his mind. The world may be unstable, but he is steady. He may fail, but he does not quit. He may fall, but he rises sharper. Because every setback is material for virtue, just as fire consumes whatever you throw into it. These daily rituals are not optional if we want to reinvent ourselves. They're the only way. Without practice, knowledge becomes pride. Without repetition, intention becomes illusion. The Stoic knows this. And so, day by day, he forges himself like a blade in fire. This is the quiet transformation that no one sees until one day you no longer recognize your former self. You no longer react without thought. You no longer run from discomfort. You no longer beg for peace, you carry it. And in that, you become unshakable. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And that strength was built one choice at a time.